RWBY Volume 3, World of Remnant Episode 3, Cross-Continental Transit System. Now, unfortunately, I had no idea that we were getting RWBY back so soon. I just recently watched, like today, I watched this episode and the current episode that came out, I guess, yesterday or Saturday. So I had no idea I was so far behind. I didn't think we were getting any RWBY until this upcoming weekend. I didn't know we were getting any more whatsoever for 2015. So I was really surprised when I went online today. And not only did I see this, but I saw the most recent episode. So I apologize for this being super late. But I think this is actually pretty cool. And it's kind of funny because this was obviously like their internet, the internet of RWBY. So I thought it was a pretty cool episode for that. And one of the most interesting things that really came out of this, as far as I was concerned, is that they never figured out space travel. So, how we've had space travel, we have people that can stay up in space and stuff like that. They don't have that in RWBY. They don't have satellites at all because dust is used as basically dust is their fuel and it's used to propel. So, it kind of makes me wonder if they use dust on cars as well, and it's basically their gas and oil and all that stuff is all from dust because I never considered it before. Like I know they use it for the guns and things like that, but I never. I guess because they don't really, cars aren't really that big of a deal, or vehicles in general are rarely that big of a deal, except for like that big fight scene from Volume 2. Cars are hardly anything. Like they show up every once in a while in the show. They have boats and airships, of course, but I never really considered like, oh, dust is what helps ships fly, or dust is what helps cars move, and I'm assuming that's the case if that's what they use, to get satellites up in space. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It's like, oh, they've never, they don't map the stars and things like that. They don't have, probes out in space trying to figure out what's going on. It's kind of them. They're kind of trapped in that type of world, but they think about that type of stuff, and it's like they have the internet, but they don't have some of the bigger, things to get even crazier answers about, the things off of their planet. So I thought that was actually really cool. I thought that was actually a really interesting part. It's probably my favorite part about it, just because it was such a random little thing. That's what I like about these in general, is because the main story always leads to some other random little fact that I find so entertaining. Like normally the main story isn't as cool as that random fact that's just thrown in there, or even if it's not talked about. I believe in the last one was where they talked about, or the last one was Huntsman, but there was one of them where they talk about the four kingdoms, and I believe it's Atlas, which is like basically the snow one. They don't have like an actual kingdom. It's basically the military, just continent. That's pretty much all it is like the military continent. So it was a lot of questions that it brought up for me, and this, it didn't exactly bring up a ton of questions outside of the car stuff, but I thought that was a cool concept, and just what they explained in general about the towers and how even though they have basically the internet, if one of the main towers falls, then that destroys the signal in general. It doesn't become like, a triangle or anything like that. If one point of this, little diamond is destroyed, everything's gone. Like there's nothing to it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It was cool to see that they had that, short range communication, and then they built it up, and they have little towers to help boost the signal in outside areas, but of course they aren't as well protected. So I like that idea. It was a pretty interesting concept to, this is their form of the internet and this is how it's structured. Like for us, it's like, oh well, that place goes down, then sucks to be them. But in this type of world, if one of those main towers is destroyed, then it's everyone. Like the minor towers, sucks to be them. But if a big tower is gone, the entire world can be cut off. So I certainly love that, and I have to assume that it's the same for television for them because they don't really talk about that. But I assume that the way they do it is the same as their internet. It could be different, but they don't really get into those details, and it's not like, oh, we started with radio signals and that was worldwide, and then it built on this. It was kind of like they started small with everything, and then they built it. Or I guess the radio signals were the small things, and then as soon as it got really big, that's when it was everything. So they don't really touch on it as far as television in general, if that's how they do it. But I thought it was a pretty cool little episode. Nice one, I guess, technically to end out the year. Like I said, I thought for sure we weren't getting anything. I didn't think we were getting anything New Year's either. I thought it was going to be like 4 weeks, I guess a full month, because the last episode, like it's not counting the one that just came out, but the one before that, I believe was 3 weeks ago, and I was like, okay, there's like a month without Ruby, and then it'll come back, in the new year. I didn't think for sure that it was going to be like New Year's weekend, here's Ruby, but I'm glad it was because it was a great episode, but I'll get to that once I do that review. But I certainly enjoyed this one, of course, even though it's super late. I still would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I'm pretty sure I've asked this before, probably during Volume 2 or something like that, but I would love to know what you guys want answered. Like, even if it was about a specific character, which I'm sure we won't ever really get a specific character World of Remnant, although I think that would be great. I don't think we'll get that, because that's, with it being character development, I think that's the type of thing they'll save for the normal series. But if you could, choose a character or something in general that you guys have had questions about, what would you like to see answered in a World of Remnant episode? Like, just a solid, 2 to 3 minutes on this one thing about the World of Remnant. What is it that you'd like to see? I think for me personally, I've kind of seen everything, so it would have to be a character, because they did the Dust episode, which I really loved that one, because it gave a lot of explanation. They talked about semblance in that one as well. I guess I would love to get another episode, like a full specific semblance episode, because there's so many questions about it, because they kind of talk about it, I think it was a few episodes back, with Weiss and Winter. It's like, oh, it's a rare thing, but our semblance goes through the bloodline. And so it's like, okay, so that's super rare, but everyone seems to have a semblance. So it's like, my mom and dad have two different semblances. I come out with something totally different from both of theirs. Love to see how that works and get some of the science behind that. So that would have to be my pick, just a flat-out semblance-based World of Remnant episode. But I'd love to know what you guys thought about it once again, and, what you'd like to see get a World of Remnant episode on its own. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.